Good morning, Pulse London. My job this morning is to get your pulse racing when we think about customer success. Unless, of course, you are fitted with a pacemaker. In which case, it doesn't matter what I say, your pulse will remain the same throughout my presentation. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So I'm going to see if we can do something about that, okay? So the title of my presentation is The Sweet, Sweet Taste of Customer Success. I'm going to talk about how we've built a customer success organization and how we deliver customer success, okay? Now, the thing that gets the pulse racing more than anything else, of course, is sugar. So I want to talk about marshmallows and customer success. And you might think, what's marshmallows and customer success got in common? Well, if you go back to the 1960s in the Silicon Valley, in fact, at Stanford University, they conducted an experiment on 5-year-olds where they said, you can have one marshmallow now, they locked them in a room, or if you can wait for 20 minutes, that delayed gratification, think of customer success, delayed gratification, you can have 2 marshmallows later. Now, fortunately, our CEO, Chuck Robbins, he was the sort of person that could wait for 2 marshmallows. So he decided to form a customer success organization in Cisco. And so you may have people in your organization, maybe a sales director that would just grab the marshmallow straight away, or you may have people in your organization that's willing to wait for results. And that's what customer success is about. It's a business development capability. It's about long-term shareholder value. And that's really what I want to talk to you about this morning. So, if we actually look at Cisco as an organization, we've been going through this journey of moving from a hardware company to a software company. These are our results from a couple of weeks ago. After we posted these results, our share price went up by about 5 or 6%, and it's still growing. So we're moving to a subscription company. And for the first time ever, what was interesting about the results was that over 50% of our revenue in software came from subscriptions. And you can see the recurring offer business going up by 3 points year over year to 32% of our business. So that's why we're building a customer success organization. Now, the thing that will make a one marshmallow person choke is presenting this type of business plan to them. So if you actually show them that the results are going to be spread over 4 years, they're going to choke. But this is how we built a business case for customer success, and maybe how you should think about building a business case for customer success. So what we did was we started small. We started on a few of our offers, if you like. And we proved that by putting a customer success function in place, that would have a better renewal rate, better usage rates, and better upsell rates. And so if you were to scale that out over the next 4 years, and you may do the same in your company, what would that look like in terms of if you didn't do it versus if you did do it? So the red line at the bottom, we made some projections, and we worked out if we didn't do something pretty damn quickly, we were going to be losing a lot of revenue over time. And so that was the kind of business case for customer success. And I'd encourage you to look at how you come up with a business case for customer success. Look over the long term, not over the short term, okay? Now, customer experience matters, business experience matters, user experience matters. And if you're British and you're giving your customer success manager some feedback, you'll go, ah, okay? Now, if you're French, you might go, ooh. If you're German, you might do it with a zzz, you know, a bit more through the teeth. And of course, if you're Italian, you'll be doing it with your arms. Okay? So this is the feedback that you get from a customer success practice. And it's very, very insightful. And so what it does, it enables you to change the way you think about your products going forward. Very, very good feedback. And so it turns your roadmap into a racetrack. You're very able to very quickly change your products going forward based on that feedback, based on an agile development process. Because collectively, with enough customer success people talking to customers, you can make the changes that are important to customers, not what engineering think is important. So this is where we see some immediate value, changing the future direction of how we design and implement our products. Here's something else to think about, and I call it accelerated adoption, okay? Now, I'm going to say something quite controversial here, which is I think 100% adoption isn't good enough. I think of the role of the customer success team is to get the customer to use more than they're entitled to. I'll say that again. It's to get the customer to use more than they're entitled to. Because here's the thing. Many of your new customers, they put their toe in the water. They don't really know how much they want or need, so they'll buy a small amount or a small number of subscriptions. And so if you think being successful is just hitting 100% adoption, it's really not proving anything, because actually getting them to expand beyond that is where you need to be. And so you will have a proportion of your customers that are small, and you should be expecting them to exceed their entitlement before the end of the contract term. And when I've looked at it in our business, for some of our offers, it's up to 40% of our customers are going over what they're entitled to before the end of the contract term when we've had a customer success team engaged. Because they're developing the new customers, the customers that are new to that particular franchise. Here's the other thing that we've seen by building a customer success practice. We had about 500 or so engagements last year in EMEA. Roughly 1 in 2 of those engagements resulted in an expand opportunity, and of the opportunities that we created, 24% of those closed. So again, when you're looking to go to your CEO or CFO and say, what's the business case? Here's some of the statistics you should be looking at when you're talking to those people and looking for investment. Of course, Net Promoter Scores have been talked about in great detail. We've been measuring that as well with and without customer success teams. And we've found with a customer success team, our Net Promoter Scores are 19% higher than without. So very good, very positive results. Equally, we're seeing lots of customers that are giving us references. In fact, I've made it a task for my team to go get references from their customers, because that's the best way to demonstrate that the customer has received value when they're prepared to talk about it. And so, here's an example of a customer in Switzerland who talks about the role of the customer success manager and the role they played in removing adoption barriers, but also coming up with new use cases for them. And this was a collaboration environment, okay? Frank Horn is in the room, right? He's here, he's a hero, right? So this is the sort of thing you can do. But this is really important with your internal stakeholders, because they need to know the role of the customer success team. They need to know what we do. And this is just one way to demonstrate it in the early days of building a customer success practice. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that your customer can solve their problem with your solution or with one of your competitors. Because I've been in the IT industry for about 30 years, and most customers have sort of got one of everything, okay? And so they can choose to use your solution or use somebody else's. So the role of customer success, if you like, is to use mine, not theirs, or use mine, not yours, if you're a competitor of Cisco, okay? That's our role. So I want you to imagine that there is another team at the end of this kind of rope of tug of war to say, are they going to get them to use their product or use your product? That's the role of a customer success organization. You have to imagine there's another customer success team out there trying to get them to use the competitor product. That's what you need to explain to the internal stakeholders. And they begin to see that. We're beginning to run into customer success teams from other organizations. And I think it's an important point. The new Battleground, if you like, has become in the usage rather than the sale. Now, I think our customers, generally speaking, are suffering from feature fatigue. I've never had a customer ring me up and say, Brian, can you give me some more features? Oh, I really love your features. Oh, that feature's really exciting. That never happens, right? They really don't have time to test all the wonderful features that you have in your wonderful products. They don't have the time to do the DevOps, the experimentation, go into the lab. They just don't have the time. So the role of customer success, if you like, is to join the dots, to point out to the customer what the real benefit of any of those things are. And the way I try to explain it is this. I say there is an expected value that your customers are expecting to receive when they buy your solution or your subscription. They're expecting that. And the role of the customer success team is to deliver on the expectations initially. When they've done that, they need to go after the unexpected value, the new use cases, okay? So generally speaking, we sell solutions. And the solutions comes with a bunch of stuff the customer doesn't want or need. And this stuff they don't want or need is up and to the right here. And so you've got to imagine reselling the product to them maybe a year or a year and a half or 2 years after you initially sold it and say, by the way, it does this as well. Can you find a use for it? So coming up with those new use cases is also the role of a customer success team, because typically subscriptions are maybe 2 or 3 or 5 years long. And you need to keep going back and looking for those unexpected values coming from the solution. Equally, one of the things that I say to my team is adopt platforms, not products. Adopt platforms, not products. So if you just adopt a product, your only real option is to upsell. If you adopt a platform, you can cross-sell. So it's about the interplay between all the elements of your portfolio, how they work together to provide synergy, to provide more value. That's really the direction that we're taking our customer success team in. Equally, I've got a bugbear about what I call the user acceptance test. So in the perpetual world, the user acceptance test was the thing that people measured themselves by. And they said, let's do a plan, design, implement professional services and get you to sign off this very last milestone and then you've accepted it. And if you think about that word acceptable, it's like saying it's tolerable or bearable, okay? It's kind of, you met the functional requirements. It doesn't say they're going to use it. So I think in the new world, UAT needs to stand for the user adoption test. The user adoption test. And that's what you should be thinking about when you're engaging the customer. And, adoption at the highest level, I call institutionalization, okay? So this is where we need to be aiming for. So if you think about the commitment a customer gives to you beyond acceptance, I call it institutionalization or internalization. An example of that is when the customer starts to use a verb to describe your product. We have something called WebEx for meetings, okay? So the customer says, let's have a WebEx, rather than saying, let's have a meeting. I know that we're moving towards a level of institutionalization. And you should be thinking about that with your products too. Is that the way they're describing your solution? Because otherwise it's a fad or a phase, a fad or a craze, sorry. So think about Pokemon Go last year. That was a fad. Super adoption, probably the most fastest adopted product in the world, but it faded out. It didn't become institutionalized. And I think that's the problem that sometimes we have. People get excited initially, and then it kind of drops off. So we're looking to go beyond adoption into institutionalization. And how do we do that? In Cisco, we have a very simple consulting framework. We call it the value framework, and we ask, why did the customer buy it? What was the business case? What was the reason? What was the ROI they were looking for? Then we ask the question, what can it do? How do they use it? Am I using it? And then finally, have we delivered something? So have we enabled them to reduce their costs, reduce some risk, enable some sales, enable a new working practice, a new working process, a new workflow? What is it that this thing has done? And then we have to revisit that regularly, because typically a subscription might be over 3 years. The initial business requirements will change over the 3 years, and so will our product. So we have to keep going around this circle to make sure the customer is continually seeing value, not just seeing value at a point in time. Telemetry is also key for driving adoption and customer success. We have telemetry in some of our products, but not all of our products. It's kind of telling you if the customer is dead or not, okay? It's also the call to action. You can see what's going on. It's one of the things that we've integrated with Gainsight, actually. We take our telemetry, and that provides call to actions for our customer success managers. So telemetry is the customer's pulse. And if you can find a way to get real-time feedback, it's really, really useful. because you can do some other clever things with telemetry. Particularly, you can build a digital experience. So when the customer downloads a new feature or function, we send them a VOD or a webinar or some instructions digitally, because we know they've done it, on how to use that feature or function in the moment, while they're doing it. Now, a customer success manager can't possibly know when that's going to happen. They can't predict when that's going to happen. So they need to be supported by a digital capability. You can't do this with people alone. And then finally, I believe that the role of a customer success team isn't just about adoption of an existing solution. It's about retirement of the legacy. And you only really know if you've been successful when the customer has replaced or displaced the legacy solution or a competitive solution. Because if you think about it, in many cases when you're proposing a solution, you promise something. You promise to replace something. But if you go back 2 years later and that thing is still there, then now the customer's total cost of ownership is gone up, not down. So finding a way to remove the competitive or the legacy product through the adoption motion, which should drive standards and should drive migration services, should be the kind of goal, if you like, of a customer success team. So that's all I was going to say on customer success. Hopefully I've elevated your pulse ever so slightly, just a little bit. And if you're interested in reading about more of my ramblings on customer success, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Why customer success is about adoption, not addiction. I promise I'm not on drugs, but that you might find an interesting article. Thank you so much.